Boom, boom, boom. Admitting everybody. Okay, welcome everyone. I love it. Big numbers. It's nice to see everybody here. Nice to see you all. Okay, so today we have Shalom. We have wonderful uh, sort of double kind of Parsha thing going on because Rabbi McGlashley is gonna talk about tonight's Parsha, which is Tisa. Uh, and then I'm going to turn around and talk about Purim, which is both of which have some tremendous uh, uh, relevance to current events. I think both this parsha has relevance to current events, and so does the event of Purim. So what we'll do is we'll start off with our dedication as people file in. Then the rabbi will do the prayer as always, and then he's going to discuss Ki Tisa, the tonight's parsha, which is by the way Exodus 30:11 to 34:35. Okay, and then after the rabbi discusses the parsha and makes his points, I'm going to discuss Purim, and I'm going to discuss the characters of Purim, the story of Purim, how Purim is celebrated, and I'm going to give you 20 Segulot. Segulot are spiritual spells for Purim. And then I thought that we would close by doing a bibliomantic reading about Purim and its relationship to current events. So I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to do. So now that you know the order of what we're going to do, let's put in your dedications for anybody. If you want to dedicate your study for someone or something, whether it's knowledge, wisdom, or peace in the Middle East, or support of uh, of righteousness, or a particular person, for the innocent people of Iran and Israel, of course. All of those are appropriate. So there you go. Yeah. All right. Put them in there. And as you do that, Rabbi, why don't you take it away with the
with the bracha?
with
Okay.
the bracha?
Bracha
Yeah.
Adonai l'mechoam asher b'chol b'mekol hamim v'noton lana torto. Bracha Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Now, do you want me to do a brief summary of Kitisa, or you're going to go right into it?
You can do a brief summary. I want to focus on one specific point because in Ki Tisa we find the Chet Zahav, which is probably one of the most ignominious moments. One of the most egregious blunders that we committed in the midbar, and I want to focus on that, why it happened, what was going on, that 40 days out, we make this Egla Zahav.
What happened?
This
Okay, tell us
golden
what
calf, the
happened.
son of a
40
golden
days
calf.
out. Tell us what happens. 40 days out, what happens?
Well, 40 days out,
Mm-hmm.
and this is interesting. So Moshe Rabbeinu said that he was going to be returning. Moses, right, said he was going to be returning. And because they said it in the morning, they didn't count that day into the 40 days. And when he wasn't back on what they thought was the 40th day, but the 40th day, he told them that in the morning. So basically, that day wasn't counted. So they became confused. Well, wait a minute. Moshe Rabbeinu went. He's not back. He's not coming back. And it's interesting. Rashi says that,
This
the
is the
Satan,
golden
the
calf
adversary.
story. This is the
What?
gold. This is the golden calf story. Is
Right.
that what you're saying? So
Right, the
this.
golden
So
calf. Why did they make a golden calf? What
okay.
was, I mean, come on, they had just seen the Eser Makot, the 10 plagues, all these Nisim Galuyim and Niflot Gedolot and signs and wonders and miracles, and they say, we're gonna go, that I mean, come on, was their faith so tenuous, their emuna so tenuous and so fragile that because Moses wasn't exact precisely when they thought should have been back, that they'd go ahead and make a golden calf and say, oh well, that's it. And they point at it. It says that in the Torah Shebechtav. They point at it and say, this is our God. What was going on here? Well, to understand it, Rashi says that what happened was the Satan darkened the sky and made them like depressed, brought them into what they call like shiflut haruach, broke their spirits, made them depressed. Okay, and the Satan created what they call a tselem, an image of Moses to appear in the sky, caused a tselem, an image of Moshe Rabbeinu to appear in the sky, and they looked at this image, and this is brought down in various midrashic literature. I think it's in Tanchuma, it's in I think in Masechet, and maybe in Shabbat. I found it in three different sources that he made this tselem, this image, to appear in the sky. And when they saw the image of Moshe Rabbeinu in the sky, they said, "That's it. He died. He died. He died up there on the mountain. He's not coming back." And then they committed the Chet Eigla Zahav, the sin of the golden calf. What was their motivation? I mean, come on, they had seen all these wonders and miracles and the Eser Makot and everything like that. I mean, like I said, was their faith so tenuous? Was it so fragile? Was it so that they did this? Well, it's explained that they said without Moshe Rabbeinu was the glue that bound them together. And without Moshe Rabbeinu, they said, that's it. This whole thing's going to fall apart. We need something to rally around. We need something to bring us to sort of to hold us together. And that was the thing with the Egla Zav. It's not that now there's all sorts of magical things associated with the Egla Zahav. That it leapt out of the fire hole, that there's all sorts of magical things, but I don't want to go into that because it would take too long and I don't want to cut into Dr. Jeremy's time. But there's all sorts of magical things that it was leapt out of the thing whole. It had the power, I believe, of speech. All sorts of weird things that were attached to the Egla Zahav, to the golden calf. But the real point that I want to focus on is it was, according to Rashi, the sky darkened, their spirits fell, they were overwhelmed with like oxavut, sadness, and because of this, they were vulnerable. In a principle in Judaism, certainly in Hasidic Judaism, is mitzvah gedola lihiot b'simcha. It's a great mitzvah to be always happy, to be happy. Lihiot b'simcha.
Oh, yes, it is a great mitzvah to be happy.
To be happy, right? And
Yeah.
it's again and again. I mean, simcha is a repetitive theme throughout anywhere you look in Jewish sources. In simcha ela basar v'yayin, there's no joy without basar, meat, and wine, which is why we have meat and wine on Shabbat, because it's the idea. It gladdens the heart. It's Einig Shabbat. It's adds to the joy of the Shabbat. Mitzvah Gedola, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, to serve God with joy. So the idea is to be happy. Even if you make mistakes, even if you screw up, like they did with the Egla Zahav, okay? Never look at yourself and say, well, that's it. It's finished. It's over. I'm just a piece of garbage. I might as well just give up. Never give in to that way of thinking. Whoever you are, however you connect with the divine, it's very, very important to always maintain a positive attitude and a positive self-image. And that was just the point that I wanted to make, is that, that you see this. This concept is that the way the Satan, the adversary, was able to get at them, was able to sort of like bring them
Make
down,
them depressed.
is exactly. And
Yeah.
that was the point that I wanted to make. There's
Oh,
many other points that I'll leave up to you. Purim is filled with all sorts of things like the machzor shekel, the half shekel, and
yes.
everything like that. I'll leave that in your domain. If you want me to chime in on it, but there's interesting things on that. But I just wanted to make that point because I think that was a very important point that I wanted to get in there. The importance to keep a positive attitude, especially with everything going on in the world today. It becomes even more important.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, that is absolutely truth. Truth spoken. Okay. Wow. Well, take that message away, everyone, from tonight's Parsha. Okay. That stay away far from depression,
And
right?
we also want to dedicate my Michelle, her father Michael, to have a successful outcome from his radiation treatments. That's when I'm going to dedicate this learning session to her father.
Absolutely.
Should have a refuah shleima, complete and speedy recovery for
A-
Michelle.
Absolutely.
Michelle Mueller. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Purim, everyone, and I'm going to start. I'm going to start, as I said, with the characters. I'll review the characters. I'll tell you the story of Purim. Okay, the whole Megillah. All right, and I'll tell you about how Purim is celebrated, and then I'm going to tell you some little known or some very well known, some are well known, Segulot spells that revolve around Purim. And then we'll do a bibliomantic reading, as I said. So there we go. Okay. So let's talk about names and the characters. And the first big name and the first big character. Now, we've all talked, I think, a million times about names and the importance of names and the holiness of names and the fact that names are ineffable. And you have Esther, who is introduced as Esther, who is Hadassah, meaning Hadassah is myrtle. Now, Esther is derived from the Persian word for star, right? And you all know it, right? East, Ishtar, Esther, Oeste, right? Ishtar, they're all the same word. East, Eastern Star, East, right, right. And it's all the same word, okay? And it's associated, of course, with hiddenness. It's associated with a sign in the sky, right? Star rose in the east. Da, 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 da. Um, the hiddenness aspect is aligns with the concealment theme of the Purim story, where God's presence is not overtly visible. And Hadassah, of course, as we've talked about, is yes, Esther is Hebrew for hidden. That's right. So this is how all those things relate. Hidden star, da 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 da. Okay, so Myrtle we've talked about as being it is Hadassah's the Jewish women's group. They've taken that name, and Hadassah, right? Asteros is also Esther. Um, is taking that name from the plant. The plant symbolizes peace. It symbolizes protection. We use it to make wands. We use it to commune with the dead. Right? We have myrtle at the entrances in the Sukkot, I believe. And so it has a liminal. This is a very special plant, and the Hadassah plant. Okay, so Esther is already starts off with a multifaceted nature. She's got two names, okay? And there's a reason we just related those together in the mystical way. Now, Mordecai might be derived, his name might be deriven. It's possible that it's derived from Marduk. Okay, he's the other character. Mordecai, Esther, Haman. These are the three, and King Ahasuerus. These are the three. These are the four big characters in this story. So I'm going to go through them one by one. Now, Mordecai probably represents refinement, but think of the word maror. We talk about that word maror means bitter. Okay, so that's what's on the Seder plate, right? So Mordecai, it's the same three-word root, right? More, and he has this ability to navigate wisdom and with strength and humility and he has this okay, so we'll go on to King Ahasuerus. His name is associated with the idea of dominion. It means the one who reigns. Now this is also Xerxes the first. It's like it's one person that has two names, like Esther. And his character is represents authority, and he highlights lots of struggles between the human will and divine governance. And then you've got this guy Haman. He's the villain. Now his name adds up into 95 with gematria. He's the ultimate villain. And gematria, the word for death, also met is also 95. Okay. Now, he is the archetype of evil, of arrogance, and his name is to be blotted out like an Amalekite, right? And we literally put his name on the bottom of our shoes, okay? And every time when we go to the synagogue, the kids love it because when you say the name, you have a noisemaker called a grogger right. He is an Amalek that's descended through Agag, and so we're commanded to blot out his name. So that's all the little kids get to make noise in temple and synagogue, and they love it. So that's the fun part. So he is chaos, he's destruction, he's evil, he is ha-satan. Whatever kind of connection to evil that you can make, you can think of him as evil incarnate. Okay, so now that we've done the characters, we'll set the story. I'll do a brief little run through, which is that the story is set during the reign of Ahasuerus, and this is the Persian Empire, which stretches from India to Ethiopia, and the characters include Queen Esther, right, her cousin Mordecai, Haman, the malevolent advisor in King Ahasuerus, and Vashti. Vashti's a queen. Now, King Ahasuerus orders his queen Vashti to appear before him and dance, and she refuses. And the king, is embarrassed and is fearful of losing his authority because his wife won't be submissive to him. And so he gets pretty ticked off and decides to go look for a new bride. And he happens to see this Esther, who's a gorgeous Jewish woman. He doesn't know that she's Jewish. Okay. So Vashti is usually viewed through a negative lens, I think, during the Purim story. Would you say that's correct, Rabbi?
Yeah, well, yeah, Vashti is considered like, she's the yeah, she's viewed in a negative light, and I don't want to go into it, but I think unfairly so. But that's another story.
Yes, I'm right. I was just going to touch on that. I mean, she's interpreted as rebelliousness, and in the patriarchal context, her actions are seen as a challenge to male authority, which is generally frowned upon in traditional narratives. But
She was a victim of her culture.
yeah, as you're alluding to, she doesn't want to dance for men, and yeah, exactly. Mark Gilmore says she has chutzpah. So exactly, I mean, so maybe unfairly, she's sort of demonized unfairly, but various Jewish commentaries and interpretations throughout history have generally portrayed her as being, negative and rooted in arrogance and pride, and have cast her in the less favorable light when compared to someone like Esther, right? I mean, let's be fair.
Yeah, like
So
how dare you? The king summons you, and you're not. You have to be there lickety split. And she was her own woman.
yeah,
She's like,
exactly. That's
I'm
how
not going
I
to be
would
pushed around.
characterize it. So, but yeah, so Esther, you could say, ultimately submits to the king's desires, but it's because it's through a higher good, right? It's to protect all of her people because the king doesn't know that she's Jewish. And meanwhile, she's having to keep a kosher diet in secret. So she's only eating lentils and, like kosher food, which is, there's not very many parv foods out there. And so her decision to kind of play the game with King Ahasuerus is seen as in a light because she's doing it in order to save her entire people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Achashverosh was a very weak. He was Achashverosh was wishy-washy.
Yeah, he's morally flawed and weak.
I mean, he was
Yes.
he wasn't necessarily like a Russia gum or like a totally evil person. He was just wishy-washy. I mean, Haman comes along and he's like, okay, fine, Haman has his ear, I'll listen to Haman. Fortunately, Esther Hamalka, Queen Esther comes along. Okay, fine, I'm going to listen to Queen Esther. But he wasn't a strong leader.
Right. Exactly. So as the rabbi was saying, Mordecai and Haman, confront each other, and Mordecai refuses to bow to Haman, and because we're not supposed to do that. And so Haman gets ticked off and goes to Ahasuerus and says, these Jews are upstarts. You need to wipe them out. And he says, oh, yeah? All right, let's wipe them out, So just like the rabbi was saying, he's kind of wishy-washy and very easily manipulated, right? He's under the influence of whatever ear is kind of closest to him. So I get it. I get it, but he's basically his anti-Semitism is literally rooted in a personal vendetta against one guy, against one guy. So he wants to wipe out a whole group of people. So of course the king is persuaded by Haman's arguments and the cash offer, and he issues a decree to annihilate the Jews throughout the kingdom, and he sets a date for the destruction. And as Haman's plot unfolds, Mordecai reveals his Jewish identity, and and pleads with Esther to intervene to reveal her identity. And she initially is very hesitant, I think, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
yeah, she's kind of hesitant, and then she understands that she's got to really embrace her identity, and risks her life to save her people. And she engages in a 3-day fast right before approaching the king. This is a
Mhm.
mystical practice that we see a
Tiny
lot.
Esther, we still do it, right? The fast of Esther, Tiny Esther.
Yeah, this is a mystical fast. Okay. And it is she's going to confront, she is preparing herself to confront possible doom. That's why she's doing it. So um, Esther approaches the king, and she does this very cleverly at a big banquet. She essentially approaches the king and reveals that she's Jewish at this huge banquet, and humiliates Haman. He invites him to this banquet, and she ultimately exposes this plot. And when Esther reveals her identity to Ahasuerus, and the fact that Haman was really a treacherous manipulator, he becomes enraged, and he orders Haman to be hanged on the very gallows that were prepared for Mordecai, uh, Queen Esther's uncle. Okay. So this sudden reversal of fortune mimics a mystical idea of Ma'at, where justice and order are restored through divine retribution. Okay. The magical irony in the plot exposes the vulnerabilities of evil, and it suggests that the divine realm oversees even the most tiny, obscure details of human affairs. There you go. So, yes, it is originally an Egyptian idea, Ma'at. Yes. Um, so, um, so that is pretty much the story, the story of Purim. Yes. Would you like to sum any other things that I left out, Rabbi? Can't. Right.
Not really.
Okay.
Interesting that there are various things that we do on Purim, like Matanot Levyonim to give to the poor,
Yep.
Shlach Manos, we give gifts. Of course, Megillat Esther to hear the reading of them. One of the
Gonna.
more interesting things is the Machzit HaShekel, which is the half shekel. And what this
Yeah.
was, it's we still do this, and it's to commemorate the tax that was mandated to provide for the korbanot, the sacrifices in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash. And the question is, why machzit hashekel? It has a meaning, half shekel. Why
Half
a
shell.
half shekel? Why not a shekel? What is the idea of machzit
Yeah.
hashekel? A half shekel. The idea is to show, is to illustrate or to remind us that none of us are an island unto ourselves. We're
Oh.
not, we're not, we don't exist in a vacuum. The idea of the machzit hashekel, a half shekel, okay, a half needs another half to complete it, right? Just a
Mm.
half is just a half. It needs another shekel to complete it. So the idea is to illustrate our interdependence on each other. You
Oh, I
know,
love that.
I consider myself very privileged to be part of our group. And I mean, there's so many people here, Aziza White, Ava Shaw, Faith McCann, that I talk to frequently, Lolan, Mark Gilmore. By coming together, we're able to actually, as I pointed out before, the total becomes greater than the sum of its parts because I see all of these interesting observations that wouldn't have occurred to me, interesting interpretations that I'd never thought of. And it shows that when we come together, like if we stand apart and we say, you know what, I'm whole, I'm complete, I don't need anybody, I don't need anything, I'm all that in a bag of chips. We're incomplete.
No
We're
person is an
incomplete
island.
without each other.
That's right.
Each one of us is a chetzi shekel, is a half shekel.
Each one of
We're
us is a
incomplete
Chetzi
until we
shekel.
come together and integrate.
I like that. I like that. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about how Purim is celebrated. Okay. So the first problem is where are you? Right? Right, Rabbi? The first problem is where are you? Because if you're in the main city, the walls of Jerusalem, then observance shifts a day and it's the 15th of Adar, right? But right, so it's a day shifted. But if you're outside of the walled city of Jerusalem, then it's when we regularly celebrate, the rest of the world celebrates it. Okay. All right. And then, all right. So Purim begins in the daytime. And, if you're observing the fast of Esther, which is common in Orthodox, that's Tanit Esther. That's when you do it. You fast from dawn to nightfall, generally. Local custom, it might vary, but that's general, right? Then there's
Generally
the
correct. And then we break the fast. We break the fast. We hear the Megillah,
right.
Esther, and then we
There's
break
an
the
afternoon
fast.
service. There's the mincha, and then there's during which there's a Torah reading, which is usually has vayachal, right? Uh, and then they usually add the Aleinu, right? And then there's right the exactly the half shekel donation, right? And many people give apparently $3.50 or for, and I didn't know that. Did you know that?
It's basically you just have the coins. You pick them up. You make a kinyan. You pick up the coins. But the idea is the shekalim, right? The shekalim that are used, they're all half shekalim. They're all half shekels. And like
Okay.
I said, the reason with the machzit shekel, the reason it is a half shekel is what I alluded to earlier.
And then you do some blessings before the Megillah, right? And then there's some special blessings before the Megillah, and then you read the Megillah, right?
Right, right,
Read it, right?
right.
Okay,
I
and
mean, quite
then
frankly, you can hear the Megillah. Traditionally, most people will do Mariv, will conclude with Elenu and then break the fast. But quite frankly, just after sundown, once you've heard the Megillah, at least my minhag, my tradition is once you've heard the Megillah after nightfall, then the Tainit Esther is concluded. You can technically, I believe, say Mariv later on, but I mean, I see a lot of people doing it that way. But
Do you read the 4 verses of redemption?
yes, yes,
Okay, all right, all right. Well, that's a little bit of a difference,
the
right?
Arba Psukim, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's interesting. Uh, a lot of people, I think, sing a lot of Purim songs. After there's a lot of Purim songs. What about the Shacharit after the
What about what?
daytime after Purim, after
Right.
the Megillah is read, next day Shacharit morning service? Is there anything different?
Yeah, well, yeah, there is for Purim, I believe.
You read
I
I
just want
think
to.
for the Macharit for the service in the morning, you read the Amalek section,
Yeah,
right?
well, and then also, of course, you don't do there's certain things that are also added. There's certain things that are omitted, like we don't do
Mm-hmm.
tachanun.
Mm. Okay.
We don't do tachanun. You don't do tachanun on any day that's a simcha.
Okay.
So
All right.
tachanun is eliminated. There's no tachanun on Purim.
All right. All right. And then, all right. What about matanot
Matanot
evyonim
Levionim,
evyonim? These are gifts to the poor.
gifts to the poor. Yeah, poor people. You give tzedakah.
So this
And
is
Shalach
another thing that
Manos,
we
you
give.
exchange gifts. There's, of course, hearing the Megillat Esther. That's another thing. And
Right.
these are various things that are associated that we have to do on Purim.
And
It's interesting.
mishloach
The
manot.
grogger that you talk about mysticism or magic. A grogger is like a noisemaker. You basically traditionally it's this thing you spin around, and I had one. I don't know where I put it, but I had one. I came home
It's
last
like a
night.
kid's, like a baby rattle.
It's like right. You spin it around, it makes noise. And you traditionally, anytime that Haman's name is mentioned during the Megillat Esther, you stomp your feet or you make some sort of noise. In Hebrew, you say Yimach Shemo V'Zichro, may his name be erased. We're erasing his name. We're
Mm-hmm.
erasing the name of Haman. That, in other words, his name. You say his name, but you make this noise so that to uh, obscure or
To
to
blot out his
over,
name.
right, to negate his name. The,
Yeah.
the idea is that explaining that to people, it doesn't sound. It's like it's not just the person himself. Like when a person who's bent a Russia Gomor, a really evil or wicked person. Think Hitler Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, or think someone
Yeah.
who's really really evil. It's not just
Yeah.
that. It's not just the person themselves, but it's the name, it's the influence. That
May
you want
every
to
part of
erase
them be
the
erased.
influence, the hashpah, the influence that this person had. The name, I think Dr. Jeremy could expound on this. I remember him talking about the name holds real significance in Judaism. Actually, if a person becomes seriously ill, the idea is you change your name. Usually, to like for a woman might change it to Chava or Chaya, meaning life. A man might change it to Chaim. The idea is to throw the Malachim of it, the angel of death, off the track. So you change the name. You're like you know. So a name in Judaism means a lot. You see that. I mean, Abram becomes Abraham, and you see the change
Mm-hmm.
in name indicates a change in the teva, the
Esther and
nature
Hadassah.
of the
Esther and
person.
Hadassah.
Hadassah, right?
Right. That's right.
And you alluded to that earlier, the Arba Minim, and by Sukkot, you have the Lulav, Etrog, Aravas, and Hadassim, the willow and the myrtles, the Arba Minim, the 4 species. And that you alluded to that earlier, I heard. So,
Yeah.
myrtle, like, yeah.
Right. So when do you start drinking? So when does
When do you
that
start
happen?
drinking? I'm Irish. I always drink.
Yeah, but let's talk about Purim drinking.
I don't drink. I only actually drink seriously for Purim and Simchat Torah. And of course, Yom Patrick HaKodesh.
Yeah. All right, but when is in many traditions drinking is alcohol is up until you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai, right?
Adlo
And you
yada,
can't,
right? Until you don't know the difference.
until you don't know the difference.
Adlo
That's
yada.
so. And when does that begin? That's the night after, also
No, that begins the night of Purim.
the night
In
of Purim.
yeshiva, it would
Okay.
go on all day. When I was in yeshiva, it would go on all day. People getting shikar and completely smashed. Uh, Actually, the way I would makayim the mitzvah, because I'm despite my yichus, I'm not a big drinker. I would just have a little bit of wine and go to sleep. That way you're doing the mitzvah. I don't know the difference between Mordechai and Haman if I'm asleep, right? Have a
Mhm.
little bit of wine and go to sleep. But it's an interesting thing that the mitzvah had to be done on dafka. It had to be, you can drink other things, but it has to be done on with wine.
Okay, why? Why does it?
Yeah.
Why are we drinking at all? Someone asks, and it's not a dumb question at all. Mary asks, why are we? Why the drinking?
Why the
Why do we
drinking?
drink
The
alcohol?
idea is, and that's a great question. And I'll take it back to Bereshit, Genesis,
Hmm.
right? That the the sin, Adam and Chava, the etadat tov v'ra, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Mordechai represents good. Haman represents evil. The
Mm.
thing is that if we transcend our limited human understanding of defining what's good and evil, that was the thing. It wasn't that God forbade knowledge. No.
Mm.
Adam actually had perfect knowledge. God actually brought all the animals before Adam for him to name them because he understood their teva, their nature, the etzem, the essence of who and what the animals were. So the idea is that God never forbade knowledge. The idea is the etadat was the etadat tovara, knowledge of good and evil. Where I sit there and I say, this is good and this isn't good. Well, wait a minute. If you actually believe in the Rabbana Shalom, you actually believe in God, you actually believe in one creator, and however you relate to the divine, I mean, this isn't, however you relate to the divine, however you conceive of your conception of God is, because every conception of God is flawed, okay, including my own and everybody else's, because you can't wrap your head around that which is infinite. Believable without limitation, ain't self without end. So everyone's concept of God is flawed in some way. They say in Judaism to know God is to be God. Well, I certainly don't know God, so I certainly can't be God. I'm too short. But the fact is that none of us have a perfect understanding or comprehension of what God is. So the thing is that knowledge of good and evil, all right, to make that distinction, I should say, oh, this is good, this isn't good. No, everything God creates is good. By drinking is that you don't know adlo yada, that you don't know the difference between Baruch Mordechai, blessed be Mordechai, and cursed be Haman. You don't know the difference between the two. I mean,
Okay.
it's a way of transcending our limited human
I understand what you're
concepts.
saying. It's a way of transcending this and sinking into the idea of not only this too shall pass, but even the evil, this too shall be for good, and that
Right. Ganze Yavor and Ganze Latova. Right.
it'll all ultimately be okay, and
Exactly.
work
That
out.
everything that God creates is ultimately for good. And even though I'm saying, yes, blessed be Mordechai, cursed be Haman, the righteous should prevail, the wicked should
Yeah,
be defeated. And even though I'm celebrating that, I should, by drinking, you're transcending that limited human concept of good and evil, saying that ultimately they don't exist. It's just our perception that
yeah,
assigns it good or evil. We're assigning it that concept. But if we
that
really
I see.
understand that everything is uh, is part of God's
It's
master
it's
plan,
it's a
then the very
subjective, and
concept
we.
of good and evil evaporates.
All right, I like it. All right, so let's go on to the uh 20 different segulot, okay? Because I want to do that and a little bit of bibliomancy before we turn it over, and then answer some questions. All right, so the feast on Purim okay, that's eating a festive meal enhances joy and is considered a segula for prosperity. Okay, prosperity. And this is according to the Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim. Okay, all right, so there you go. You've got a way now to increase your prosperity. Mishloach Manot, all right, the food gifts, all right, boosts community spirit and fosters friendship. Okay, so we're not talking about anything but fostering friendship and community spirit. This is Mishnah Megillah. Okay, Matanot La Evyanim, providing gifts to the poor. This attracts divine blessings and abundance, prosperity again. Okay, and this is Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim. Reading the Megillah, this is number 4. Reading the Megillah, reciting the book of Esther on Purim emphasizes miraculous salvation, invokes protection. Oh, so now we've talked about prosperity, blessings, and we've offered you protection and friendship. So I'm giving you some really good ones here, guys. This is from Mordechai Megillah, okay? All right, let's get into the wearing of the costumes. Why we a lot of times Purim is celebrated by wearing costumes. Dressing up symbolizes the hidden aspects of life, and that, remember, it's Esther who is Hadassah. She's wearing a costume, okay? She's someone else in pretend, all right? So it symbolizes the hidden aspects of life and brings joy and transformation. So dressing up brings joy and transformation. And what's the source of this? This is Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Bertichev. I don't even know where that is. All right. The recitation of Al Hanisim, including this prayer in the Amidah, expresses gratitude and attracts further divine favor. This is according to the Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim. Eating hamantashen, okay, that's a segula. Eating hamantashen, it's a segula. The triangle pastries, of course, symbolize victory over Haman. I was always taught about that represents the hat of Haman, but other people have taught other things, I think. But it brings blessings. And this is Rabbi Moshe Isserlis. Okay, the study of Torah, which we all did together tonight, engaging in Torah learning specifically on Purim, provides spiritual elevation and divine insight. And this is according to the Talmud, Berachot 5a. All right. All right. Number 9, charity before the meal. Giving charity before the Purim feast is a segula for blessings during the meal. Okay. All right. Number 10, reciting Tehillim, Psalms. Saying the Psalms on Purim can invoke protection and peace. And what's the source? Lots of rabbinic sources on that. Too many to count. Okay. All right. 11. Number 11. Festive singing. Festive singing. I know these seem like big deal. They're not such a big deal, Segulot, but they are. They are. I mean, this is what we want. Prosperity, blessings, da-da-da-da, right? Singing brings joyous expression during the meal, creates divine atmosphere, attracting blessings. If you want to, and this is Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. So if you want to attract blessings, singing, okay, joyous singing. Candle lighting, lighting candles on Purim. I love lighting candles. Everybody loves lighting candles. It symbolizes the light of redemption and can bring blessings into the home. And the source of this is Chidushai Harim. Okay. All right. Number 13. Number 13. Reading the Megillah on time. On time. Reading the Megillah, ensuring that the Megillah is read on the correct day, the 14th or 15th of Adar, secures good blessings. And this is, again, according to the Shulchan Aruch. Okay. All right. Giving a donation in honor of Purim. All right, these are all believed to invite blessings, creating unity through fasting. Okay, shared meals foster community unity, but shared fasting also fosters community uh, unity and is a segula for security and growth. Ooh, security and growth. Okay. Reciting the names of Haman. Now, mentioning the name of Haman during the Megillah serves as a reminder of overcoming evil. And the source of this, which I thought we weren't supposed to mention, but this comes from Talmud, Megillah 23b. What do you think of that? That's kind of crazy. All right. I got three more 17, 18, 19, 20. Four more. Okay. Praying for the redemption of Israel, which we should definitely do. Special prayers for the Jewish people's redemption during Purim are seen as powerful, and this is according to Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Extra kindness, performing acts of kindness in Purim is a segula for attracting divine mercy. All right, number 19, a lasting commitment to charity brings continual blessings. So if you want to get continual blessings, you keep giving to charity all the time. Keep giving to charity. Remember, giving to charity thwarts death, thwarts mahamavet. Okay, and then finally, we're back to names, everybody. Writing the names of family members and saying prayers for family members can invoke blessings for their well-being. Okay? So there you go. There is your 20 segulot that gives you everything from fostering community, fostering friendships, fostering prosperity, getting blessings, getting protection, all getting good health, all the good things in the world. And I love the fact that each of these things is um, is done mostly by giving to charity and by acts of kindness. Okay. Which Psalms are read on Purim? Well, good question. I think Psalms 22 is read, if I'm not mistaken, Rabbi. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I want you to continue there. There's somebody posted an excellent question that I want to address, but
Okay.
Gay weiter, go continue. And then I want to address one quick question from Yehudit. I would imagine that's her Hebrew name, Judy Jacobs. She posted an excellent question.
Okay. Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean,
She writes, if humanity is created B'Tselem Elohim, right, in the image and likeness of God, B'Tselem Elohim, and if one of the major differences separating humans from other beings is determining the difference between good and evil, right? Hamavdil bein tov v'ra, to separate between good and evil. Not a distinction that concerns animals. One of the tasks of humans is to figure that out. And then she writes, it's our job to disobey and eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, the Etz Hadat, right? No, she asked this question. Wouldn't it be our obligation? It's a very interesting observation. And I would tell Judy that I asked that question myself because animals don't have bechiras chafshis. They don't have free will. Free will is like,
you tell that to my cat.
right, or my dog. I mean, I love my dog. Great dog, but doesn't really have any free will. Can't decide, moral, it doesn't wrestle with moral conundrums.
Yes, it doesn't wrestle with
Okay,
moral.
it
Yes,
really
I got you.
doesn't. And, so that's the situation. I'm not saying they're not intelligent. I'm not saying that they're not wonderful. In Judaism, animals are accorded. We have even a mitzvah, tsar balechayim, not to cause suffering to any living creature. So Judaism has a very positive regard for all of God's creation, including animals. But the thing of this is, they don't wrestle with moral conundrums. They don't wrestle with moral questions. Humans, we do. So she writes, it's our job to disobey and eat from the Etz Hadat. Well, no. It would have been better had, let's say, for example, if we say, you know what, the world is good. Everything that God puts in the world is good. And I could see it from that perspective. I could see the good in everything that God does. But after eating from the Etz Hadat Tov Ra, That's no longer possible. So we lose something and we gain something, Judy, is the way I see it. We lose something. We lose that innocence of being able to see the goodness in everything that God does, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. We lose that ability, but we also gain something, that we can serve God on a higher level, because then I can make a choice between good and evil. Before, see, Chava did not have, Adam and Chava, they didn't have any choices to make. Before they ate from the Eitz Hadat Tov Hara, it says the Yetzer Hara, their evil inclination, had not been internalized. They didn't have an evil inclination. They didn't even know what evil was. All they knew is, when they were in Gan Eden, is just whatever God creates, whatever God does is good. It's a no-brainer. After they ate from the Etadat Tovara, that no-brainer became a brain pain. Okay, how do we know now? How do we separate between the two? So, Judy, I'd say you're right on one point. It wasn't our job to disobey, maybe, but we did gain something. We lost something and we gained something. We lost our innocence, but we gained the ability, Bechiras Chavshis, free will. We gained the ability to make a choice to serve God. It was no longer something like we didn't have the choice. And people would say, well, why did Hashem create the Eitz Hadat? Well, I mean, why even create the tree of knowledge? I mean, it's kind of like, what? Was it a sting operation? Was it a setup? Okay, fine, I'm going to put this right here in the center of Gan Eden. And, no. The thing is that you can't choose to serve God unless the option exists to not serve God, to rebel, to do what God doesn't want. In other words, you only have the option to do the positive if the possibility of doing the negative exists. That would be that would be. But it's a very good question that Judy Jacobs presented. It's a question I often ask. Well, if God wants us to freely choose to serve him, then wasn't it a good thing to eat from the Eitz Hadat, the tree of knowledge? Because then we have freedom of choice. But the difference is that the freedom of choice wasn't internalized. It wasn't that their Yetzer Hara, their Nefesh HaBahamit, it's called in Chassidus, their animal nature wasn't inside of them. And that's what Chava said. Chava wasn't the evil temptress that you find in other versions of the story. Chava was actually a very spiritually elevated entity. And, Adam and Chava, actually, it says in the Midrash in Judaism that Adam and Chava were actually one entity. They were joined together at the back. So the idea of being male, female, this, that, they were actually one in the beginning. And Hashem separated them because it's not good for man to be alone, right? But Chava wanted to serve God on a higher level. Say, you know what? We eat from this tree, then the evil inclination, the desire to the urge to rebel is inside of me. And it says in Pirkei Avot, Ezahu Gibor, who's the strong person, Kovesh et Yitzro, the person who masters their impulse. So the only way you can master your evil urge, your evil impulse, is that it exists, right? If it's inside of you. The Nachash, the serpent, which represented the evil impulse, was external, was outside. So Chava was actually saying, I want to go all the way. I want to actually just internalize, make this nefesh Bahamit, the animal nature, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. I want to internalize it. I want to make it part of myself and then forcefully overcome it. That's an even higher level of serving God. So, really, she wasn't, her intent was very lofty and very noble, her intent. So, but like I said, that's coming from Rabbi McLashley. Not everyone would agree with it. Not everyone has to agree with it. That's just my perception.
All right, should we do we have 5 minutes left. Let's do a little bibliomancy. All right, for everybody. All right, so some people may not be familiar, so I'll talk a little bit about it as we go along. All right. This is the symbol for Huldah. All right, she's one of the prophetesses, so loyal. All right. This is a symbol for Queen Esther. So, all right, she's a prophetess. Let's put them in the bag. Okay. All right. This one is the symbol for Hannah. This is a fig leaf. All right. This is the symbol for Deborah. She's the world's first judge. All right. Put that in here. And this is the symbol for Abigail. Abigail's the Star of David on a British West African coin. All right. Prosperity. All right. Abigail's David's wife. This is Miriam, of course. The Hamza is Miriam. That makes perfect sense. And then we've got Sarah the wheat. All right. So we got all this stuff in here, and you shake up the lots. We're just casting lots, just like Aaron did. All right. No problem. Take it out. What do we got? Ah, look at this. It's Purim. We've got Esther. All right. All right. So the question is going to be, of course, we're all going to concentrate, everybody, about how this situation is going to turn out with, with Iran and what's going on in the Middle East. So can we make anything of this? Bibliomantic question about the Purim and its relationship to maybe current events, and what should we know? Okay, about this. So we'll go to Esther's. All right, Rabbi, are you with me?
I'm right here.
Okay. All right. I'm with that in Esther's chart right here. Okay. All right. All right. Tell me when to stop. Can you tell me when to stop?
Stop.
Okay. This is right there. Okay. Oh no. Okay. All right. Genesis 41, 30 to 31. I don't know what that is. Okay, let's go. Genesis.
Gracious.
What do we have? Genesis 41. What do you got there, Rabbi? 41, verse 30.
I don't have a chumash in front of me, so I
Oh,
can't.
okay, I've got it. What will happen? And then 7 years of famine will arise after them, and all their abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land, and the abundance will be unknown in the land in the face of the subsequent famine, for it will be terribly severe. Wow. All right. 7 years of 7 tough years are coming, I think.
Mm. Fill up
So
your gas tanks, everybody.
that's a pretty ominous. The 7 years of famine will rise after them, and all the abundance of the land of Egypt will be forgotten. Wow, all their abundance will be forgotten. So, well, the verse. What is the verse? The verse is 40 is Genesis chapter 41 verses 30 and 31. That's quite something. So I think it's going to be a struggle for quite some time, probably 7 years. It might be something that'll be difficult for us to extricate ourselves from. I hope not. I hope we're in and out, and I hope there's an Arab Spring, and I hope that there's peace and blossom and And then I just used this one, and I looked it up in the Stone edition. This one, this one. All right, I am praying for Iran too, and I hope that they overcome evil, and I hope that they've had several years of famine. That's true.
That's
So we'll
true.
see.
Wolon makes a good point. So maybe it's referring
To the end of an
maybe
era. That's true. That is a good point.
yeah.
Well, we can only hope, Lolan, that your interpretation is in fact more correct. All right. Good night, everyone. We've had a wonderful time. I'll see you tomorrow night for Ma'ariv. For Ma'ariv at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and I think we'll have Chazanit Teferet there. So Lila Tov, everyone. Lila Tov.
I wanted to give a call out to your wonderful daughter, but she already signed off, Talia. This is the first time I got to see your daughter. So.
Well, she was just trying to come in under the radar.
Okay.
All right. Good
Everyone, we
night,
love you.
everyone.
Have a wonderful night and Chag Sameach.
Hag
Bye-bye.
Sameach. Bye bye.